Hi everyone, bonjour à toutes. Welcome to Mom's Hot Method, redefining hotness by the mother's gaze, making motherhood the growth hack experience you were looking for. So hi everyone, bonjour à toutes. We're here with Ricky and I'm Matt, and this is your Hot Mom Method podcast. And today we're going to apply the let them theory to motherhood. And I'm really telling you this is going to be life changing. I'm going to take few examples. Ricky's going to tell you also how she can apply it. Just for those who are not familiar with the let them theory, is something inspired by Stoicism and Buddhism and all the detachment philosophies, which are like, okay, everything that you can control is within you. Anything external you can't control, so you shouldn't try. So it's basically the idea that, let's say your husband is, not healthy, doesn't train, you want him to be healthier and train just because you love him and you want him to be around, and then you're going to start forcing him to do things. No adults want to be forced to do anything, right? Everybody wants to have an element of like agency, they're in control of their life, so you should let them. And this let them word has changed so many lives around the world. Like, people are tattooing the word. And I'm like, this is so key to motherhood. Let them. Let your mother-in-law come and comment about, the way you're dressing up your kids. Or let her, speak. And let me do my thing. So this is like, number one, let them. Let them comment. Don't engage. Also, like, it's so draining to argue with people.
Yeah.
So just let them, just like nod nicely. Listen, because you never know what you might learn.
Yeah.
But then let them. And then the most important is let me. And then just do your thing. And honestly, do not engage in guilt.
Yeah.
And I feel this is so important. As moms, we have the guilt button.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes feel guilty, actually, Ricky?
On what way?
Or like as a mom?
For sure.
I never. So go ahead. I trained myself to never go into guilt energy. I'm trying to stay at like love level energy.
Which I really admire with you, but I think like I don't know. I can feel guilty if I'm at a work event away from my kids, or like if I'm just even out for dinner with my husband, because it's like, and then it's, I don't know, but I think that's maybe a struggle I have. I really feel guilt very often.
Okay.
Which is,
I think feeling guilty is it goes, hand in hand with being a nice person and a kind person. It means that you process a lot other people's feelings. And in the let them theory, what she explained is like other people's feelings belong to them.
Yeah.
So feeling guilty because, like, I always think about those people who feel guilty, for example, because like, they didn't show up to something. Or what I try and do is I try and show up to every like occasion, wedding, anything that is super important, and anything that is, organized by someone that I love. Then I don't feel guilty because I don't know, like, because I showed up to something that is that is organized by someone that I don't really care about. I think you need to have boundaries.
yeah, and especially when you have two small kids, you can't like be everywhere all the time. And I think I'm maybe more different than you there, because I feel I don't want to disappoint others, while I want to be, I think I struggle with disappointing others.
I also think, and that is again, like, I think I'm gonna draw.
I
Oh
love
wow,
your
Talia,
drawings.
Talia really went wild on that one. I think you can. So like, you want to stay out of the guilt zone, right?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, guilt is also a gift to push you to do the right thing,
Yeah.
right?
But I think it can push you to do more than you're comfortable with.
But
like,
yeah,
I can push myself to go and do something to not feel guilty that I didn't do something for someone, whereas I actually just want to be home with my family.
but so I think that's the thing. I think there is like, it's normal to feel guilt if you didn't show up to your, like, I don't know, like to your nephew's birthday. Don't be lazy,
Yeah.
Just show up. But
So there's a lot of things you can do where
yeah,
you
but that's
don't
the thing.
have to.
You need to have like, you need to go outside your comfort zone, and then you also need to, there's like guilt for others, and then that is respecting your energy.
Yeah.
And so that I think this is the hot spots. This is like, when, okay, you're outside, you're at the extreme of the circle, you're really outside your comfort zone, fine.
Yeah.
Your comfort zone being here. And then this is others, and then you meet them. But you don't go all the way there. So I think that's what really important is, like, with the let them theory, is
Yeah.
that sometimes you're going to let them because otherwise you can't be you.
Yeah.
And you need
But
to
for
know
me,
yourself.
especially, it's like motherhood has really helped me in that way. Like, it made me feel less guilt because it's like I know what is important for me, and I also have less time to kind of please others. So it's like then I have less guilt than I had before. But I think, yeah, I just wanna sometimes you just want to be able to be everywhere all the time, but you can't.
No, you can't. And I think it's also like,
Even
again,
when you have two small babies, if both are crying, you have to almost
true.
choose one, and you just want to be both
yeah.
ways.
I think that's definitely a female trait as well. Like, we
Yeah.
really want to be everything to everyone. And that's why, like, I think it's important to, like, keep 10% for yourself.
Yeah.
There's this theory about the mask that you need to first put your mask, like inspired by the plane. Like, if the plane crashes or whatever, has a problem, you need to put your mask and then you help others.
Yeah. I would put my daughters first, and then
I think that's the thing. And actually, that's so funny you say that, because I think I would definitely I think it's like, it's also the whole thing about the frame of reference, which is also in the let them, is
Yeah.
like, you need to also do what makes your heart happy.
Yeah.
And if putting your kids first makes you happy, only you know. So you don't need to go, again, let them. If some people say, oh no, you can't pour from an empty cup, you need to have you need to do this and that. But you need to tune in with yourself. What does bring you true joy?
Yeah.
Is it by being with your kids? And maybe, like, forgetting about yourself, and, but then on the other end of the spectrum, I think, sometimes women, we were like, oh yeah, it's fine. We're not going to prioritize ourselves, and we're just going to do, and we're going to go, and we're going to be everything to everyone, and then we crash. We're resentful towards our husbands.
Yeah.
We're grumpy. So I think this is the balance that you need to strike is, do as much as you can. And if you need to be doing something for others 90% of the time, but you do need this 10%. And that's my thing. I'm now make sure that I have this 10% for myself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I end up being just not the right energy. I end up being sleep deprived, working too much. Like, it's also the thing between movement and stillness.
Yeah.
You need to be a lot for others. Fine. It makes you happy. It brings you joy. But then you have this like 10% care that you owe to yourself in order to help others.
Yeah. I don't think if you don't have that 10% for yourself, you won't be that person you want to be for others in the same way, because you are so affected of not having that 10%
Totally.
for yourself.
And you feel it. If you're pushing
And
too
it
far.
doesn't need to be like something special. It could just be
No,
like
just have a shower.
laying on your phone and
Exactly.
I don't know. I love just sitting on my phone and looking at beautiful pictures, for example.
exactly.
Like, or you're just
Or having a shower where you actually have the door closed. That's my thing
Yeah.
now. I bloody close the door because, like, after having 2 kids.
But now they know how the oldest knows how to open the door.
Yeah, there are a couple of tricks. Just like turn the lock in and let them with that. And you know what? I think letting them and taking care of you as well is a discipline.
Yeah.
Like take that walk. You might not want to take it because you're like, oh no, it's fine. I could do more for my kids. Take it.
Yeah.
Maybe put the baby in the stroller and go. But like, there is discipline in making
But it's also
sure.
something different doing a walk by yourself
And
or
with
with
a
your
stroller.
husband than with a stroller. Because
true.
with the stroller, you always like check, are they still sleeping? Or are they...
Or you can discipline yourself to not check if they're sleeping.
Yeah.
The thing is, and that's also something that I really love with motherhood. I think it takes you, if you have a little bit of like girl attitude inside you, it really like pulls you to woman level. I always say this, there are boys and there are men and there are girls and there are women.
Yeah.
And I feel being a woman is sometimes like, it's not about you,
Yeah.
but it's also about having the discipline to be a lady.
Yeah.
Like I always think about what sort of person do I want to be for my daughter. What sort of example do I want to strike? And my friends,
I think especially when you have daughters.
and exactly because you're their role model.
Yeah.
The other day a friend of mine said, "Oh yeah, but like you're never yelling at your kids." I said, "Well, I train myself
Yeah.
to speak to them because I don't want them to think. I'm very controlled
Yeah.
because I don't want them to think that yelling is okay. Because I grew up in a household when yelling was okay.
Yeah.
And I think it puts, like,
I think you also lose a bit of the
control.
Meaning behind what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
because it's
The
like
message is not there.
the rage in a way kind of take away all the
And I always thought, like when my parents were like either yelling at each other or like being also like a bit violent and yelling with us, I was like, you lost it. You're not an adult. An adult is supposed to. I've always believed that what
it's
makes us
amazing
different.
that you kind of saw that yourself as a kid.
Yeah, well, I mean, I also think that when the household is not really stable, you grow up much too fast as a kid, and like you see things. But basically, I was like, what makes us different from animals is control,
Yeah.
and awareness. So when I'm with my kids, I'm trying to be super aware. So I'm like, I'm not gonna let
not
go.
only the things we say, it's also our body language, what we do, how we set as an example, because they look at us and analyze everything we do, even from
And they mimic, they copy.
go to the toilet, to putting on
my God.
makeup, or
Yeah, actually, that even for the potty training, I took my daughter. I was like, "Look, mommy's gonna wee wee," and then like she came, and then she wanted to do the same, which really works. If you have this
I
bond.
let my daughters come with me because it's like, mommies go to the toilet, you have to do it as well.
Exactly, and then like they love it doing like mommy. Couple of examples where I applied the let them theory recently. One is actually about routine. Like I had my friends being very into routine and saying that it was key to a kid's well-being, and I was like, I was
There
even
we
trying.
are very different also as a mothers, which is like,
And I feel like I let you do you and I do me.
Yeah.
And I think this is so nice, not to trying to convince people. I think that almost, I even like came up lately with like this theory. If you're trying to convince people that you're doing the right thing,
Then
most likely you're trying to convince yourself.
I think the same.
So let them, but it works with everything. Let your husband, be him and having the fatherhood that he wants, but then let me lead by example.
Yeah. And especially on that note, I think like let them, for example, me where I'm like with routines and stuff, but then my husband is different. He's like, but when I'm in charge, I do my thing. And I think you need to let them take, or if it's your mother-in-law or your mom,
Absolutely.
like you need to let them do their way of taking care of your kids.
In a certain extent, with hard lines, like for example, let's say, if you don't allow, I don't know, like gluten or sugar, but actually there's also this thing
But
about
you can't micromanage everything, because then you kind of have to do everything yourself, I think.
no, exactly. And that I was also like, I'm a lawyer. I used to be a lawyer, and there's one very famous saying by a French lawyer and philosopher, actually from the 18th century, who says like the least laws there are in the country, the better they're followed.
Yeah.
And that is, I live by that. I'm like,
Look at
okay,
the country, so it's more
too much bureaucracy, too much laws, the kids. And at the end of the day, I see my household, my home, as a mini ecosystem. So I don't want a million rules. I want few that I'm hardcore on. And the few rules that I have that like I'm not negotiating on are kindness, manners, because at the end of the day, our role is to put good citizen into society.
And I think manners is so important, and I think you can start at really early age.
Oh.
Like people say, I've heard people saying like, oh, you can't like tell them no before they're 4.
No, you can
or
totally.
You
Oh my
can't
God.
teach
No.
them manners to say like thank you or all of that. I'm like, you might say that, but
Let
I'm
them.
gonna
Let them.
But
Let
I'm
them.
gonna teach my kids manners, because I
And-
think it's really important.
And then I think one thing that is so important is to teach also like empathy. And to me, because I have 2 girls, sorority. So I may be the type of mom that, like, if my daughter wants to have Nutella in the morning, and actually she doesn't ask for it that often, but this morning she wanted, actually still on the table, I'm like, okay, have this.
Yeah.
But if she is coming to me, whinging and being like upset when actually I'm taking care of her sister and her sister is in true needs, I'm taking a moment with her and I'm actually really harsh. I'm like, darling, it's not about you right now. It's about your sister, and your pain, her pain is your pain, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then I'm so
That's
harsh.
a tricky thing when they're small age gap for them to understand like that.
Yeah, but trust me, she stopped. Now when she sees that my second is 8 months, and when she sees that she's crying and she's in pain,
Yeah.
she comes with
Yeah,
the cow
mine
pow.
too.
She's like, mommy,
comes with the
baby
dada,
cow
dada.
pow. So, but that's so good. It means that by design,
Yeah.
she's gonna be a caring person.
Yeah.
With like when you're like, oh, okay, you give them all the attention that they want all the time, it's gonna be a struggle for them to actually be empathetic in life.
But it's really important, I think, especially when there's small age gap, that they feel integrated and helping. Like I always try to integrate my oldest one to help with the second one, because then they feel like they have some necessary and like can be of assistant, rather than being like, oh, just wait a moment, mommy's just gonna do this with your sister. I think it's let them come in and do like, oh, do you want to give the bottle or give the dada, or
I think also kids love a mission.
yeah.
So
And they
actually,
feel an
again,
achievement.
let them try. And
Yeah.
like, achievement, definitely. And also, I feel like, again, like it's leading by example. And if you're showing them how you care for the baby and you let them be part of it, that they makes them not jealous.
Yeah.
But we might be overstepping on like Mothering 2 episode that's coming
Yeah.
later. Another moment I applied the let them theory is when people come to me and explain that, oh, actually twice, the whole like dummy thing. So I ended up asking a cosmetic dentist if you could have a
Yeah, I
dummy.
saw it on Instagram.
And she said, yes, absolutely,
Until
until 9
2?
months. Until 9 months, you can, and then until 2, it doesn't matter. But it's like, if you can take it out of 9 months. And she said, scientifically, there's a suction reflex until 9 months. Then sometimes it goes... It's so, yeah, let them do what they feel is good for them. And let me take control of my household, of my family, of my baby that I know better than anyone else. Because everybody will try and give you advice for like 2 cents. Listen, nobody knows your baby. I don't know your kids the way you do. You don't know mine the way I do. And yes, there are things, and we'll actually touch base on this when we're going to be on the 4th trimester. I think that's actually the one time in life where there are actually rules that you should follow, because you need to recreate the womb. You know, that like swallowing and swinging and that.
Sterilizing.
But short of that, then like listen to your baby, trust your baby.
Yeah.
And
I love a dummy.
I love a dummy as well. And my first one didn't. She spits it out, and I ended up being the dummy for 2 years and a half, which I didn't want with the second one.
Use the thumb, and I'm like, take the dummy.
Exactly. To be fair, like it's harder to do the dummy withdraw the thumb than dummy.
Yeah.
But honestly, apply it to everything. Let your mother-in-law speak and give you like advice, and let her be in her role. Also, make, in her frame of reference, she's aiming for the best. She's trying to give you advice. She might not understand that it's overstepping, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then you have so much power by keeping that energy for yourself and not sort of engaging in trying to convince someone that anyone doesn't want to be convinced, because they just want to probably, they think they're right. So just like retake that power and take that energy and allocate it to something better, like doing something with your kid. And that's it for today. And thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Our love language is to share good tips with other good moms. So if you like it, share it with your mom friends, or for the women in your life that might want to be moms and might need a tip or two.